Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, where we talk about navigating the ups and downs of life with a focus on mental health. Whether you're here because you're working through something, supporting someone who is, or just curious about different perspectives on mental health and resilience, I am so glad you're listening. Today, we're talking about relationships, how to make them strong, healthy, and actually fulfilling. And let's be real, relationships aren't easy. They can be messy, frustrating, and sometimes painful. Whether it's family, friends, coworkers, or romantic partners, we all deal with relationship struggles. Some of us grew up watching unhealthy dynamics. Some of us have been through heartbreak or betrayal. And some of us just don't know what a healthy relationship is supposed to look like. That's why I'm talking with Dr. Mark Hicks. He's a counselor, author, and relationship expert who breaks down what makes love and connection work. And I am talking about real connection, not just the feel-good moments, but the actual effort that keeps relationships going. He's got a framework that helps people figure out how to communicate, set boundaries, heal from past hurts, and build relationships that don't just survive, but actually feel good to be in. This conversation isn't about fluff. It's about the real work that relationships take. If you've ever felt like you're bad at relationships, if you keep running into the same conflicts, or if you just want to be a better partner, friend, or family member, this episode is for you. And hey, while you're listening, I want to hear from you. If anything in this episode resonates, if you have a story to share, or you just want to say hi, connect with me. You can find me on most socials as MommaFoxFire, or just search for Even Tacos Fall Apart. And if you're enjoying the podcast, leave a review and a comment. It helps people find these conversations, and I love knowing what topics mean the most to you. All right, let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Dr. Mark Hicks on how to build healthy, thriving relationships. That is so funny. All right, let me get this fixed really quickly, and then
I don't want to host.
Yeah, you don't want to be in my shoes. That's okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am joined by Dr. Mark Hicks and very excited to bring you this conversation tonight. We are going to be talking about how to build healthy, thriving relationships. So if you are just joining and you're just tuning in and you have a question related to relationships, go ahead and pop that into the question queue, which I believe I did. Yes, I did open. So feel free to pop that in, and that's !Q. Follow it with your question. We'll make sure to get it asked while we are live here today. But Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and have this conversation.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a little bit about Mark, and then we will get going right through this. Dr. Mark Hicks is an author, ghostwriter, speaker, counselor, and relationship specialist. His passion lies in unraveling the mysteries of love and relationships, digging deep into what makes them tick. Mark firmly believes that healthy relationships are the cornerstone of a fulfilling life and career, and he loves sharing insights that change lives. That's why Mark poured his heart and soul into his book, Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. In Learning Love, he teaches the 5 components of love that anyone can learn and practice to build healthy, happy, thriving relationships, regardless of their relationship experiences so far. In a world that's too often gripped by loneliness, dysfunction, and trauma, Mark offers hope and guidance for those seeking deeper connections. And if you are looking to connect with Mark, I'm going to post his website in the chat. Feel free to visit him on his website. He's got his socials and everything linked there, as well as some exciting information about his book. You want to share that at the top, and we'll share it later too?
Absolutely. Yes. The book was originally self-published on Amazon. That particular version is no longer available because it was just picked up by Morgan James Publishing, a New York publishing firm. They will be making pre-orders for the republished book available in November, and then it will launch nationwide wherever books are sold in June of 2025. And so I'm just thrilled that that is taking that next step and broadening the reach of this message.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this after November, go make sure you pre-order. And if you're listening to it after June of 2025, make sure you go buy a copy. That's exciting to go from being self-published to having a publisher actually pick it up and work with you. That's awesome. Are you making significant changes to the book with the publisher?
No, just a few tweaks here and there, but nothing significant.
Yeah, yeah. That's really exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, yeah. I am sure. Hey, 488, if you have any questions tonight, feel free to pop them into the chat. Good to have you here. So, Mark, you hold several degrees. You hold a master's degree in mental health counseling, a master's of divinity, and a doctor of ministry. What about your life experiences kind of drew you to those fields? What made you become interested in specializing in both mental health and religion and spirituality?
Yeah, my career has kind of been that twofold path of counseling and ministry, of psychology and spirituality. And sometimes that's taken separate paths. I've worked in hospitals, I've worked in clinics as a counselor. I've also worked in churches and nonprofits and mission organizations in the ministry field and spirituality. And sometimes they've crossed paths. For instance, there were several years that I worked as a director of a recovery organization, recovery group that was involved in addiction recovery, but also divorce recovery, dysfunctional family. We kind of took the approach that everybody's in recovery for something. No one gets through this life without scars. And so we really had a program that was for everyone, dealing with just the tough things of life. And that involved both my counseling background and the spirituality and theological background. And that all really culminated in writing this book, because both from a spiritual standpoint, a theological standpoint, psychology, counseling, love and relationships brings all that together. It's the core of who we are in the deepest part of our soul. And everything about us is about having that love and relationship element of our life be healthy, happy, thriving. When we have that, we have it all.
Yeah. I think it's really neat that you kind of found those paths crossing with mental health and also religion. I think a lot of the time those things not become mutually exclusive, but a lot of the time, if you're highly religious, you're like, oh, well, we're not going to go to a therapist or anything like that. We're going to deal with everything within this. So it's really neat to see that you have, kind of higher degrees in both at the same time. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I would greatly disagree with anyone who says if I'm religious I can't go to a counselor. I would strongly advise everyone to go to a counselor, and that does not negate your religion or your prayer life or anything
Yeah.
of that nature. They can go hand in hand. Now, I know that that's not everyone's going to agree with that right off,
Yeah.
but I've been able to merge those two quite well in my career.
That's great. Yeah. And you absolutely can. That's wonderful. So, what do you enjoy doing when you're not busy working or writing or sharing your story on shows like this?
Well, one of the primary things my wife and I love is to travel. And we've got kind of developed that into a little side business because she works online as well, and I work as a full-time writer and ghostwriter and speaker. We actually have a little side gig where we are professional house sitters and pet sitters. And so we've been able to travel the country, living in people's homes, wonderful homes, and seeing different parts of the country and taking care of some great animals. And uh, very often I'm writing my books or someone else's books in someone else's house.
Yeah. So, let me ask you, do you use like an app or something to find people to house sit for? Or is it just, a lot of people in a lot of places and they need you to house sit?
Occasionally it's someone that we know, but most of the time it's through a company. It's trustedhousesitters.com. And so there's background checks and all those kind of good things that make it safe. And we get pictures and profiles and all this kind of stuff of the homeowners, and they get the same from us. So they get to interview us through that company to make sure that we're the right match for their animals and for their house. And so it's all very professionally handled.
That's really cool. I've used things like Rover to have someone come and pet sit, whenever I'm going on vacation or whatnot. But it'd be kind of cool to have someone actually come and stay and give the dogs the attention that they really need, and the
Yeah.
cat the attention that he really wants.
All animals love attention. You give them
Oh
attention,
yeah.
they love you.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Now, how did you get into ghost writing? Because I love hearing stories of people who are ghost writers and really enjoy doing that work.
Yeah, it was at the same time that I was writing my book. I love to write, and I was really looking just to find writing opportunities as a career. And so I was pursuing as an author, but then I sort of stumbled across a ghostwriting school which I attended. And from that, I was hired at a ghostwriting agency. And so I work for that agency. And I also take independent contracts for people that want to hire me directly. And so I have a lot of opportunities to write now. I'm a full-time writer, whether it's my books or someone else's books or blogs or website content or whatever people need written.
That's really cool. I have a friend who's a ghostwriter on top of her full-time job in doing what I do, which is proposal management. And when I first talked to her about it, I was like, I don't know how you have the energy to do both. Like, I don't know how you work so many hours and then you still take the time to write. But I know that for some people, it's just what they love to do. So it's really neat. It's cool. I didn't even know what a ghostwriter was until fairly recently, within the past decade or so. I had no idea that there were people who just write for other people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't know what it is, but it is the ideas and the intellectual material of that author. I put it into their words. I have
Yeah.
to write it in their voice. It's not my material, and it's not written as I would write. I write it as they would write. So my counseling background comes in handy there because as a therapist, I have to really get into where a person is coming from.
Ah,
I have to hear what they're saying and understand their mindset, not project myself into it. So I bring those same skills to my ghostwriting, where I really hear the voice of that person and write as them. And of course, they have final editing
sure.
rights because it's their book. But it's a lot of fun. It's great to bring somebody else's ideas to life, just like I love bringing my ideas to life in books.
Yeah. I definitely love that you made it into a full-time job because again, same kind of situation. I have another friend who does the same kind of work that I do and she writes books. Like that's what she does under her own name and also a pen name as well. And I again am like, I don't know how you have the time unless it is your full-time gig. I don't know how you have the time to do both. It's so much work and there's so many different things going on whenever you're writing. It's really something that takes up a lot of, I think, brain space. But maybe it doesn't for everyone. Maybe it's easy for some people. Is it easy for you?
No, it does. It no, well, I enjoy it, but yeah, it does
Yeah.
take a lot of brain space. It takes a lot of creativity, but I just love doing it. So yeah, I get a kind of a rush out of it at the same time.
Yeah. I love that. Well, switching topics a little bit, do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
Uh, that's a great question. I think mine probably would be a little old school. Back in the 1960s, there was the Charles Manson and the so-called Manson family, and made famous in the book and the movie Helter Skelter. Uh, and I think that one always fascinated me that they took that family moniker upon themselves and thought of themselves as a family, uh, even though it was just utterly horrific, the kind of things they did, and the obviously Charles Manson brings his insanity to that group. Um, but as I have developed, particularly in my book, writing about love and relationships, it just goes to show that this is something people need. Love and relationships is a human need, and when it is not met, things can happen that are that bad, that are that horrible, almost unimaginable becomes reality because people are craving that love and belonging and a sense
Yeah.
of community. And when they don't get that in the right way, they will get it in the wrong way.
Well, and there are entire other cults, not necessarily the
Oh,
Manson
sure.
cult, but there are plenty of other cults that are
Yeah.
based around love and finding love and
Yeah.
preying on people who are trying to find love. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those needs that you really kind of, if you're not having it met, you're right. You could definitely get into some hot water a little bit.
Yeah, it becomes scary if we don't have that met in the right way. And not everyone who comes from a bad background, of course, is going to end up there.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that there is no limit to the horror that can happen if we don't emphasize love and relationships in our culture.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue because now I want to talk about why do you believe relationships are so foundational to success and happiness? Why is that?
My book is titled Learning Love. The subtitle is Building a Life That Matters and Healthy Relationships That Last. That is a quote from one of my counseling professors. He used to always tell us, Every client you see, everyone you meet, anyone who comes to you for help, they are all looking for the same thing. They'll have their unique story and their unique journey, but they're all looking for the same thing. Everyone's looking for a life that matters and healthy relationships that last. And that's not two different things. That's two sides of the same road. Because if we have healthy relationships that last, we have a life that matters. Because we matter to those people and we matter in those circles. And that's a life that matters. And if we have a life that matters, it's because we have relationships in our life, whether it be family, whether it be coworkers, and loving what we do for a living, our contributions to society, and the people we work along with to make that contribution, whatever area or whatever form, whatever journey we have, everyone's looking for those items for a life that matters and healthy relationships that last. And so I think it's the cornerstone of everything. Obviously, we need that healthy relationship within marriages or partnerships, within parenting, but also friendships, co-workers, loving what we do and who we do it with, who we work beside every day, loving humanity, loving the planet, loving God, whatever form it takes for us. It's all about following those principles to build love in our life.
I'm interested to hear your take on, like, do you think it's romantic love that is foundational to that success and happiness, or is it just love in relationships in some form or fashion? You need love in some form in your life.
I think it's just love, and that can take different forms for different people. Not everyone needs to get married. A lot of people do. Some people shouldn't.
I did, and I shouldn't have. I'm divorced now.
Yeah. Well, I had a divorce early in my life. I ended up in a very toxic relationship. I didn't always know what I know now. I'm happily married.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm happily married now, and I often say I've had a bad marriage and a good marriage, and good is better. We need to work at that. But not everybody wants to get married or should get married. Not everybody wants to be a parent or should be a parent. Um, but everyone needs somebody. They need some way to contribute to life. And so it may be their career and their coworkers that are their family in a sense. It may be their work in a church or in a charity or some place that they contribute and the people they work alongside to make that contribution. You can build that life that matters and have healthy relationships that last in a lot of different ways. This is not a stereotype of a certain life that people have to live. It's the principles that we live in whatever area that we find fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it
Can
may be
you
more than one. It may be all of the above.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, it's definitely, there have been times where I'm like, I truly love the people that I work with. And there have been times where I'm like, I truly do not love the people that I work with. And the times where I'm like, I love the people that are around me every day. We spend so much of our time at work that if you are surrounded by people that you love and enjoy working with, even if it's not love, at least it's like, I don't hate them. It makes a huge difference in your just work life balance and satisfaction as well.
Yeah, obviously it's a different kind of
Yeah.
relationship when you're talking about a marriage versus a
Yeah.
coworker. But as you said in the introduction, I teach the five components of love, and those five components apply to any form of healthy relationship, any form of love, whether it is appreciation for our coworkers, a friend, a neighbor, or family member or spouse, or whoever it might be. The same components apply to all those relationships.
Well, let's talk about those components. So there's five components. Can you kind of walk us through what those are and how do they apply to all those different types of relationships?
Absolutely. The first component of love is grief. And that one usually surprises people because when we talk about love and relationships, people assume we're going to talk about bubblegum and butterflies and everything sweet and beautiful. And that is true. That's part of it. We don't ignore that part. But if you speak to someone who has emotional barriers, they keep people at arm's length, they're defensive, they're frustrated with their relationships, and they don't let people into their life, that's a person that's been hurt. They will tell you a story of when they were hurt and they lost trust in relationships and they put up those emotional barriers. If we don't know how to grieve, We are not going to be successful in relationships because you don't get through this life without scars. Everyone gets hurt along the way. Life is going to be difficult at times. And some things are so painful that they can leave a hole in our heart. But what I want people to know is that you can live a really good life with a hole in your heart. And that's what grief is. Grief is learning to live a good life with a hole in your heart. Because we can't go back and fix some things. But we can learn to stay connected, to be in relationships, to lower those barriers, and to know that we have a comeback story. That yes, we're going to get hurt along the way. That's the nature of life. That's not being pessimistic. There's good things in life too. But the reality of life is there's going to be some pain along the way. And our comeback story is the grief process that allows us to heal to a place we can stay connected. That's a vital part of every relationship, because we're going to get hurt at work, we're going to get hurt at family, we're going to have pain along the way, disappointments, and knowing how to grieve is the way we heal enough to stay connected. So that's the foundational and first component of love. The second one is emotion. This is the bubblegum and butterflies. This is the sweet and beautiful. That's
There
what
it is.
everybody knows. I knew we'd get to it. And that's the emotional connection. And we are all looking for that emotional bond that we have with friends, with family, with coworkers, of knowing we're in this together and loving being together. And that's very easy for some people to make those emotional connections. For other people, it's not. Some people are more reserved. They're more cerebral. They just don't express emotions as easily, and that's okay. There's different personality types. It's always a practice. Just try it. You'll get better. It's like every other practice. For those that comes natural, I don't have to say anything. You know how to make emotional connections. But for those that it's difficult, just try it. Just work at it. Learn to say I love you. And if you come from a certain background where that word is loaded, where it was abused, and love has a bad connotation, say things like I appreciate you or thank you when somebody does something nice for you. However you need to do it, practice showing people in your life that you care about them, and make that emotional connection on whatever level you can. And like any other skill set, you'll get better.
Yeah.
The third component is practicality. For those people that don't show emotion as easily, they love this one. This is how we live life together well. This is the communication skills, which is a learned skill set. These are things like particularly if you're a married couple or in a partnership where you live together, you need to be able to work together on things like finances. That's part of the loving relationship. That's part of a healthy relationship, is working on your finances together. Dealing with mental health. Things like depression and anxiety not only take a toll on us personally, but takes a toll on our relationships. And these are treatable conditions. There is help for those things. And so getting the help we need to be healthy is part of our practical component of relationships. You may have heard people say, well, I love them, but I can't live with them. These are the people that have made emotional connections in the second component, but they've missed the third component. They have not learned to live together well in a practical way. And so that practicality becomes very important. Emotion brings us together. Practicality keeps us together. People that are together in whatever form the relationship is, they've been married 50 years, they've worked together for 40 years, they've been neighbors for 30 years, whatever it is, if they're happy in those relationships, they've learned practical ways to live together well. So the fourth component then is acceptance. And this takes two important forms. One is we have to accept other people, obviously. People are not going to be perfect. Now, when I say that, abuse is not allowed. One of the things I talk about in the practicality chapter in my book, some relationships need to end. And people are surprised when I say that sometimes because I'm a relationship coach, but abuse is not allowed. So we don't allow abuse, but within reasonable limits, people are not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. We have to accept them anyway. But the more important one is we have to love and accept ourselves. Brene Brown's done some incredible research and written some great books in this area There's other people writing this area too, but she's very notable at this point of bringing this to attention, that you cannot love someone more than you love yourself. That's the limit. That's the ceiling. Because love is not a commodity like something like money. If we need more money, we can get a second job, we can take out a loan, we can, borrow money from friends or family, perhaps. We can steal money, but don't do that one. There's lots of ways to get money. Love is different. Love is organic. It has to be grown within us in order to give it away. And some people get this reversed. They think that, well, if somebody loves me, then I'll be validated and then I can give love. That's not how it works. We have to love ourselves and accept ourselves first. And if we don't do that, then we're not growing that capacity to give love away. A lot of people miss this one because they're so caught up in the emotional connection and even the practicality that they don't realize in order to love, you have to start with yourself. You have to love yourself first. And the fifth component is passion. Now, when we say passion in the sense of love, we often think about intimacy and romantic relationships, and that's part of it. But what we're really talking about here is a passion for life, of enjoying the ride. Now, of course, sometimes life is serious, and that's why practicality is the third component of love. And sometimes life is tragic, and that's why grief is the first component of love. We're not forgetting those things. But let's not forget about enjoying life. Passion becomes the wind in our sails. It becomes the fuel in our engine. And what that really comes down to, the secret ingredient to passion is fun. Just have fun. Try every day. You're not going to succeed every day, but try every day to have some fun. Enjoy your life. Enjoy the people you're with. Laugh together. Enjoy what you're doing. If you love what you do for a living and you love the people you're working with, go to work every day and enjoy it. Not every day is going to be perfect, but enjoy what you do. When you have fun in life and you have that passion in life, you're going to have a sense of purpose, you're going to have a sense of drive, and you're going to enjoy the ride. And so if you know how to grieve the hurts of life, you know how to connect emotionally, you know how to live together well practically, you start by loving yourself in order to love others. And you bring a sense of passion and fun and enjoyment of life and into your relationships. You can build healthy, happy, thriving relationships, even if you come from a dysfunctional family, even if you've been through a divorce, whatever your story is, you can use those 5 components as a way to conceptualize how to build those healthy relationships. Now, I know I went through those quickly, but if anyone's interested, before my book comes out, I do have on my website, markahicks.com. Make sure you get my middle initial in there, markahicks.com. Hicks is Hicks. If you go to my website, I have a free ebook that's available that gives that rundown of all 5 components of love. I would love for people to pick that up.
Yeah, and I just posted the website one more time, so if you're looking for something easy to click, there it is. So does it really surprise people that much that grief is your number one? And I guess, well, first of all, are those in order of importance to you?
No, they're not in order of importance because I think all 5 are critical.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people are going to probably naturally be good at 1 or 2 or 3.
Sure.
Maybe if you came from a really healthy, exceptionally healthy family, maybe 4. I don't think anybody's naturally good at all 5.
Yeah.
And so the most important one is the one you're not good at, the one that doesn't come natural to you. That's the important one for you to work at. But all 5 are equally important. All 5 must be practiced. And we have a sense that, well, I'm good at emotional bonds, so that's love to me. I'm just going to be good at that. Or I'm a very practical person, so I believe love is commitment, love is dedication, love is doing the right thing. Well, yeah, it is, but there's other aspects. And so don't get caught up in just what you're good at. Look at all 5, and the most important thing you can do is to get better at the one that you find it to be a struggle.
Yeah. What would you say is generally the most misunderstood aspect of love, and how does that impact our ability to form these meaningful relationships?
The one that is most misunderstood is the grief.
Yeah.
Because of that sense that the second most is the self-love. We miss that one too, of understanding that we need to love ourselves first. in order to love other people. But I think grief is the one that people miss because we just think that, well, if I have love, I don't have to grieve. It'll heal that. Now, it will actually become a hindrance to it. And that ability to grieve lays the foundation to stay engaged in those loving relationships, even in the hardest of times. And I think that's the one that's missed the most and undercuts a lot of relationships because people do understand about emotional connections and practicality and maybe acceptance. And certainly everybody wants passion in their life, whether they're practicing that or not. But sometimes we don't understand that that grief element may go back years, even into our childhood, where we put up those barriers. And maybe we were so young we didn't even realize it. And so we're hindering ourselves because we don't understand that grief is that vital part of love.
Are there some specifics about grief that you're like, these are the things that people do wrong in grief or in the grieving process or anything like that?
Yeah, they try to go it alone. Is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Everyone should be in counseling. Now, I get pushback on that statement because some people think, well, I don't need to be in counseling. Everybody should be in counseling. Now, maybe not every week, but find a counselor, a therapist, a coach, someone, particularly if you're going through times of grief or if you have been through it years ago and haven't worked through it particularly well and it's still haunting you. Don't try to go it alone. If we have a physical ailment, illness, injury, we're going to go to a doctor.
Right.
If you have a toothache, you're going to a dentist. If your car doesn't start, you're taking it to a mechanic. If you have water issues in your house, you're calling a plumber. We have all these professionals that we use in our life to help us. And yet, when we have a mental illness, when we have emotional distress, when we have grief, we think we're supposed to do it by ourselves. I don't know where we got that. Who made that rule? It makes no sense that we would use professionals in every area of life. We would use lawyers. We would use, bus drivers to get us where we need to go. And yet we won't ask a professional to help us with some of the most important aspects of our life in the most difficult times of life. Get help is the absolute most important thing I could say.
Yeah. I haven't talked about this in a little while on here, but I definitely feel like more people could treat therapy and mental health care as kind of the similar to the dentist, where you go every 6 months whether you have a toothache or not. Most people do. I don't. I go to the therapist more often than I go to the dentist. But go for a check-in once or twice a
Yeah,
year. Go for a check-in and say, look, I just want to see, kind of how things are going, get an outside perspective on how things are going, and here's everything I've had happen in my life in the last 6 months, and here's kind of how I've dealt with it, and what's up.
absolutely. And what that does, if you follow the advice that you just gave, then you have someone that you can call in that difficult time
Yeah,
that already knows you. You know them. You've already built a rapport. You're already comfortable there. They already know your basic story and how you're dealing with things in general in life. And so you can go in with a specific, just like you would for your doctor that you see once a year for a checkup or a
yeah,
dentist twice a year that knows you. They understand a little bit about your life and what you're struggling with and what you're not. And so if you go in with a specific ailment, they can start focusing on that immediately.
yeah. And having them know your baseline of like, here's how you deal with life, here's how you feel about life. Because when you get something like depression, you forget all of what your baseline was, and you're not going to
Yeah.
be as honest with yourself or your therapist if they're only dealing with the part of you that is the depression right then. And so if they know you without it and then they see you with it, then they're able to help just more efficiently, more effectively. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I
Everyone
totally
should be in
agree.
therapy.
I totally agree. Now, you've worked with folks in various stages of relationships. Are there any common issues or things that just tend to come up across the board, regardless of age, culture, or background?
Yes, one primary aspect that affects really everyone of every background, every culture, is that family is the primary place we learn relationships. And sadly, that's very often a terrible source.
Yeah.
There
It
are
can
lots of
be.
dysfunctional families out there. But the number of people that will say, well, that's just the way I was raised, and use that
Oh,
as a
yeah.
validation to live their life a certain way. And that's not restricted to one culture or one background or one ethnic group. I've been a lot of places in the world, and everyone is looking for that life that matters. Everyone's looking for those relationships that last. But the way people go about doing that is usually, there's some exceptions, but usually they've learned it from family. And that's not a good idea, even if you come from a very healthy background. I was very fortunate. I had a wonderful childhood. I have loving parents, treated me great. I still ended up in a toxic first marriage. And one of the problems is when you come from even a healthy family, every family has its own quirks, its own oddities, its own ways of doing things that are sometimes just plain weird. And that's okay. That's part of the charm. But when I take my, you know, strange, odd quirks that are just plain weird, and I go out into the world and meet people in the workplace or in dating or in neighborhoods or churches or charities or wherever we meet people, and they have their quirks and oddities and things that are just plain weird, they don't always match up very well,
Right.
even for people that are basically healthy. That's best case scenario. That's when we all come from good families, good, healthy families that treated us well and taught us basically what love is. And so using your family as your benchmark, as your exclusive guide, is common in every culture, in every background, in every age group, and it's really a bad scenario. We need better. And that's not to criticize family. I love the idea of family, but it's the realization that one, even if they were healthy, you've got to still have a lot to learn. And two, if they weren't healthy, if they were toxic, if they were abusive, you do not want to follow that way of thinking. So love your family, appreciate them, care about them, don't emulate them.
Yeah.
Learn what love is and how to live it out.
Yeah. Now, kind of on the opposite, are there cultural differences that really shape kind of the view on love and relationships that come up across different cultures and backgrounds?
You know, interestingly, there's a lot of things that divide us as human beings and cultures. We divide ourselves along religious lines and along political lines, and a lot of other ways that we find a way to divide ourselves
Yeah.
and to fight with one another. But at the end of the day, we have a lot more in common when it comes to love and relationships than divides us, because everyone is looking for that life that matters and healthy relationships that last. Again, everybody has their unique journey. We may end up in different religions and different ethnic groups and different ideas and different political affiliations and stuff like that that may end up causing us to not always get along with one another, but we're all still looking for that same thing. And so love and relationships tends to divide or tends to bring all of those different divisions together into one single goal. We want a life that matters and healthy relationships that last. And so if we begin to understand that, some of these other divisions aren't quite as important as we make them sometimes, because we're really all wanting the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, love is kind of the thing that everyone wants, right? Like
Yeah,
even
it's what
even
everybody's
if
looking for.
you're yeah, even if you're from a culture that doesn't emphasize love or anything like that, it's still something that
Yeah.
you're seeking out as a human. It's something that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's part of who we are, just as human beings.
What's a common mistake that people make when they're trying to improve their relationships, and how can they avoid it?
The most common I've already mentioned is trying to go it alone, trying to, uh, you know, avoid going to therapy and getting help. Always get help if you're trying to improve relationship. But beyond that, uh, when you are trying to improve a relationship, it's really easy to focus on what's wrong with the relationship and have a list of things you want different, particularly what you want your partner or the person you're in conflict with or the group to do differently. And if they would just get their act together, everything would be fine. Uh, that may or may not be true. But that fourth component of love is really missed a lot, of loving yourself first, that accepting and loving yourself. If you want to improve relationships, start with yourself. start loving yourself, accepting yourself, caring for yourself, and practicing that self-love. Get the help you need for your mental health, your emotional health. And that, again, goes back to everybody needs to be in counseling or have a coach or some form of assistance. And build yourself up with self-care, and you'll improve your relationships, or you'll give them the best chance to improve. As I said, some relationships can't be saved. Some relationships need to end. If it's abusive, they need to end. But even then, you're going to need to have that self-love and that self-care to take care of yourself through that process and to stay connected where you can have healthy relationships in the future. So beyond getting help, getting therapy, having a counselor or a coach, the biggest mistake is not realizing the importance of self-love, self-acceptance, self-care.
And there's so many phrases around that too. Like, you can't pour from an empty cup, or, hurt people, and heal people. So it's
Exactly.
kind of, there's a lot of, when you find things that are just common phrases around stuff, there's usually something to it. So
There's something to it. And we say sometimes, well, that's cliche. Well, it's cliche for a reason.
yeah, where'd that come from?
Yeah, where'd that come from? That there's real science and there's real experience behind those statements that is just true.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't want to really look into that too much, but it's definitely, they're cliches for a reason. Generally, sometimes it's not, but
There's
in a lot of
exceptions to the
cases,
rule,
yeah, of course,
a lot
of
of
course.
cases it is true. And yeah, if we focus on ourselves and being as healthy as we can be, we're going to be in the best position to improve the relationship, or in the best position to end it if we have to.
Yeah.
And that takes us back to the grief. If we have to end those relationships, it will bring us to grief, and that's why that's such a foundational component of love.
I didn't connect really that at the end of a relationship is something to grieve. You talk about grieving, and you think the big things like death, or something tragic happening or whatever, but there are the little griefs as well. Do you think it's just as important to kind of address those in a super healthy, super healed manner as well?
It absolutely is. Small thing. Grief is in the eye of the beholder. So what is disappointing and upsetting and hurtful to you is disappointing and hurtful and upsetting.
Yeah.
It may not be someone else, but losing a job, financial setbacks, not getting that promotion, decisions our kids might make, especially our adult children, when they can make their own kids, may really cause us grief because we worry about, the path they're going down, but we may not be able to stop it. In fact, we won't be able to stop it because you don't control other people. There's a lot of ways to grieve. And yes, the ones that come to mind are things like death of a loved one, of course. But there's a lot of ways, a lot of events that cause us to grieve, that cause those emotional scars. And they can cause us to put up those barriers. Learning to grieve even the smaller things, quote unquote, that may not be the first things that come to your mind. I tell a story in my book about a young man. This was a story that came from one of my professors. He told the story of a young man who developed a crush on a young girl, as young guys tend to do at college age. And he wanted to ask her out. The problem was he knew she was out of his league, way out of his league. But he just was so head over heels that he wanted to ask her out. And he finally got up his courage. He expected her to say no, but he just had to try. And so he asked her out, and she turned him down, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was there was just a brief moment that she laughed. She had just a chuckle. When he asked her out, she just chuckled just for a second and then stifled it and politely turned him down. But that was all it took. He was crushed. He was humiliated. He knew she would probably say no. He hoped she would say yes, but he did not expect to be laughed at. And he said to himself in that moment, "No one will ever hurt me like this again." And that became a solemn vow that he didn't remember consciously, but he remembered in his soul.
Yeah.
Fast forward 25 years, his wife, he's got kids, he's got a successful career, he's got a wife. His wife comes and says, "We're going to go to therapy or I'm leaving you. I have lived alone in this marriage for too many years. You won't let me in. You won't connect with me. You've been distant all these years. I've tried to connect with you in so many ways, and I'm done. We go to therapy or I'm leaving. He didn't want a divorce, so he went to therapy. And long story short, it came out that it all went back to that young man who was so hurt being laughed at, even just for a moment, by a beautiful young girl and swearing he would never be hurt like that again. He had kept everybody out of his life ever since then.
Wow.
Those little hurts along the way can change our life if we don't know how to grieve. There's not the death. I mean, that's something that, we may laugh at him. We may laugh at the story of, oh yeah, this guy asked this girl out and got turned down. It may be a silly story, but to him it wasn't.
Right.
It was a turning point in his life. And so that's kind of a long way of agreeing with what you said. Even those little hurts become important areas of grief in order for us to keep our heart, our mind, our soul open to the connections of love.
Yeah. I want to dig in a little bit to, you mentioned a couple of times, you've been divorced, and then you've also brought up kind of abuse and those kinds of situations. So after your own experience with divorce and toxic relationships, how do you view forgiveness in the context of I'll put romantic betrayal and abuse? And do you believe forgiveness always means reconciliation?
Forgiveness absolutely does not mean reconciliation. Those are two different conversations. Forgiveness, and yes, as you mentioned, I've been down this road. I've been through a divorce, have the emotional scars to prove it. Learned a lot from that, and one of the reasons I can be here now talking about love and relationships is I learned some of the stuff the hard way.
Yeah.
Of course, I learned from my psychology and counseling background. I learned from my spiritual background, but I learned from difficult experiences in my own life going through that. Forgiveness is choosing not to seek revenge, even whether it be in reality or in our imagination. Either one. Because sometimes we may not seek revenge in reality, but we ruminate in our minds. We think about what we would say, how we would tear into them, how we would put them down, what we would do to them if we had a chance. All these things that we fantasize about and think about to put them in their place, show them how bad they hurt us, hurt them just as bad, and get our revenge may never happen in reality, but it happens in our imagination, and that's just as harmful to us. That bitterness, that anger, that rumination is not healthy for us. And so forgiveness is choosing not to seek revenge, whether in reality or in our imagination. Letting go of any right to revenge. That is not a conversation about reconciliation. That's different. Some relationships, there can be reconciliation if there's remorse, there's an actual change in behavior if somebody's betrayed us, and I'm going to say it again, you've got to be in counseling. You have to have a coach, a counselor, a therapist, and work through the underpinnings, the things that led to that. What were the symptoms? What were the bad habits? Whatever it was, the character flaws, whatever it was that led to that event. It's not enough to just be sorry for the event, but dealing with whatever it is that led to it, and that takes therapy. That takes counseling, and or having a coach, a marriage coach, or somebody that can help walk us through that and see things from a perspective where we can come to some realizations and some real changes. Reconciliation is possible, but it's not required. And sometimes it's just not possible. And those two things should never be put together. Forgiveness and reconciliation are both important, but they're two different conversations. Don't join the two together. Forgiveness does not necessarily lead to reconciliation, or should it in some cases?
Yeah. My case being one of those.
Some relationships have to end. They just have to. It's not fun. I don't say that flippantly. It's going to hurt. And it's not just about divorce. Sometimes you can't have a relationship with your parents because they're abusive, and you need to end that relationship. You may have a toxic sibling. You may have a friend that was once very dear to you, but for whatever reason, they have betrayed you now, and that friendship can't continue. those things lead to grief, which is why grief is an important component of love. These things happen in life. It's not the fun part of life, but it is it's a reality for many of us. And so knowing how to grieve in those situations is our comeback story, and it allows us to not be stuck in those relationships. We can get out of those, we grieve for that loss, and then we continue on with that happy, healthy life, even if it leaves a hole in our heart. Because you can live a really good life with a hole in your heart.
Yeah. That was something that was really hard for me to reconcile for myself, because I was in an abusive relationship. And I did wind up getting a divorce. And even after the divorce, I was grieving the loss of that relationship. And that was weird. Like, it was like, why are you sad? And that it took a lot of work to really get to a point where I was like, oh no, it's okay to be sad about this loss and to kind of process through that, like you're saying, that grief. It's not about like, oh, I wish I was still there. It's about like, it's a loss, but it is a significant loss, and it's a significant change in your life. And that does take a lot of work.
Even if you're not grieving the loss of that person, it may be a relief that that person is not in your life.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a relief that they're not there abusing you every day. But you have lost the dream.
Yeah.
You've lost what you believed you could have. And you've lost the time you spent trying to make that relationship work.
Right.
You lost all the effort you put into that, and that dream was important to you. You didn't go into that relationship believing you would get divorced or break up or whatever it is. You went into it with a dream and a mentality and an expectation that this was going to be a vital part of your life, and that dream has been shattered. And that is just as important as any other aspect. That is a loss. And so even if people, and divorce and breakups are hard because people around you that haven't been through such a thing think, well, you should be happy they're not in your life anymore.
Yeah.
You should be relieved that this is over. And in some ways, we are. But it is an overwhelming sense of grief that you lost the dream.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
And that has to be recognized and has to be grieved.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Yeah. And I mean, even now, I still talk about my story pretty extensively. And it's like, I can talk about all of this, and it would be weird to say, but I grieved the loss of that relationship at the time, and it's like, but it was so bad. How could you? But it is. It's just that loss of the dream, of the situation that you were in. And it's just a major change. Like, sometimes change brings on that grief too. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a dramatic change, and it's a frightening change because you don't know where you're going from there, because you invested yourself in this particular path of life.
Yeah.
And now that's over. And so it's all the aspects of grief. But just like every aspect of grief, it becomes, if we do it right, get help, it becomes our comeback story.
Yeah.
It is
absolutely.
The way of healing.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about kind of the, like, what do people do wrong? What are some practical steps that people take on a daily basis to really nurture and maintain these healthy, long-lasting relationships?
Yeah, of course, all 5 of the components are important. We should practice all 5. But the one you can do every day is the passion. Get up in the morning and look for the fun. You won't find it every day, but it'll be there a lot of days if you look for it. And one of the reasons that's so important is because our brains are not wired up that way. Our brains are wired up to look for trouble. Because if something bad happens, we'll remember that forever. Because our brain files that away to say, don't go down that path again, it hurts. We always remember that. Our brain is not wired up to remember the good things the same way, because if we don't go down that path again, so what? We just missed on something good. We're not going to get hurt. We might find something else good. And so it's not wired up to automatically enjoy the day. Yeah. It's wired up to avoid the trouble, the bad, the hurt. And so in order to practice passion, we have to sort of overcome our natural instincts and think on a higher level and wire ourselves differently so that we are looking for the good, and we're looking for the fun and the enjoyment and the things to be grateful for. Our brains won't do that naturally. So we have to learn to do it. We have to teach our brains to do it. And so if we do that, that's something we can do every single day. Hopefully, we're not going to be grieving every day. Hopefully, we're not going to be worried about how do we make an emotional connection every day. That'll come pretty natural if you're in a good, healthy relationship. Although always need to be evaluated and working at it. We can tweak it. But it's that area of passion that really feeds everything else, that feeds those emotional connections and even the practicality and the self acceptance. If we enjoy our life, we enjoy what we're doing, we enjoy the people, it's easier to accept ourselves in the midst of all that. And so the thing we can practice every day, get up in the morning and find the adventure, find the fun, find the enjoyment, find what you love about the day, and really focus on enjoying it.
That makes me think of the conversation we had last week was about laughter yoga. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
heard of laughter yoga. I had not
I have.
heard of laughter yoga. But it's just one of those things like if you don't know what's going to be fun in your day, you can make something be fun in your day.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually been some studies that our brains don't really make a huge distinction between laughter that is spontaneous and
Yep.
laughter that is voluntary. The brain doesn't care, it's just laughter. And so if something's fun and exciting and hilarious and it makes us laugh, great. If you don't have that, fake it and just
Yeah.
start laughing. Your brain, your body doesn't know the difference. It reacts basically the same way. There's some different science out there. I don't want to make too much of that because I'm sure there's some nuances scientifically with that. But in general, it has the same results. So if you don't find something funny that day, laugh anyway. Your body will react to that.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of studies. I think we talked about like something like 30 different studies that they've done fairly recently,
Yeah,
showing that if you can force yourself to laugh for anywhere from 6 to 10 seconds, and then your brain's like, here's what you're looking for. Here's the
yeah.
chemicals you were seeking.
All those chemicals, they react the same way. Our body doesn't care if it was voluntary or spontaneous. Just laugh. Just enjoy your
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Uh, 488 has a good comment. He says sometimes it's loss of the hopes and plans that won't be fulfilled. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, that's well put. Yeah, that is just as significant as losing an actual person. Uh, those hopes and dreams are part of who we are. Those plans, our vision of our future, all that is wrapped up in these significant relationships. And when they have to come to an end, there will be grief, but that is not the end. That's the beginning of our journey back.
Yeah. Bite Mark would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
Oh goodness. I don't read a lot of poetry.
Or favorite song? I happen to know she'll accept favorite songs as a poem.
Oh gosh, now I do know a lot of songs, but I'm not sure a favorite will come to mind. That's a good question. Um, yeah, I'm going to draw a blank. I,
That's okay.
although I don't know a specific poem, but I'm going to be embarrassed because I've forgotten the young lady's name. But she spoke she read a poem at the presidential inauguration, and she's done a couple of things since then. A young African American lady who's just an amazing poet, and I can't name any of her poems, but every time I've seen her, I've just been mesmerized. I think she's an amazing poet. As someone who's not read a lot of poetry, I think she's amazing, and I wish I could recall her name right now, and it won't come to me.
That's okay. If you think of it later, you can just send it to me and I'll stick it
Okay,
in. I'll stick it in.
okay.
I was just having a conversation this weekend about like, different music and stuff, and I'm like, I can't pick a favorite. I can't pick a favorite in so many
That's
different
my
ways.
Yeah, that's my struggle. I love so many different styles of music and genres of music, and I've been a singer myself a little bit, amateur singer, and sometimes a semi-professional singer. And I've done a lot of different kinds of music. I just love it, and so picking a particular song, I don't even know how. It's just I
Yeah.
love music.
Yep, absolutely. What is your favorite life hack?
I do a lot of traveling, as I mentioned earlier, and so one of the things that I think is really helpful if you're a traveler, particularly driving, download more than one GPS
Oh yeah.
because they're all wired up a little different, and so they show the traffic patterns differently. Sometimes One GPS will not even know there was a traffic jam, and another one does. And so I have one on my car. I have two or three on my phone. My wife has two or three on her phone that are different than mine. And so if we get stuck in traffic, or particularly if you're driving on holidays where you know it's going to be a lot of traffic and probably accidents, unfortunately, uh, plug that into two or three different uh, GPS systems and see where those traffic patterns may be a problem, because they'll all usually be a little bit different.
Yeah. You know what? Same thing with weather apps too, because I had just a few weeks ago, I looked up the pollen count, and it on the app that I have on my phone, it said there is no pollen, no grass, no ragweed, no tree pollen. And I was like, I'm calling bullshit. So I looked it up
Yeah.
on another website, and sure enough, it was like the pollen in your area is high today in all three categories. So I don't know what that one app's problem was, but it
Yeah.
was wildly inaccurate. So I believe it on the traffic apps. I believe that could absolutely be beneficial to have more than one for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
You can't
it
have too many.
it is time for the magic moment of the stream. So if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
It would be the fact that we don't talk about it. When I lived in the Czech Republic, I lived in Prague in the Czech Republic for about a year and a half, and I learned very quickly that while here in the United States, if you say "How are you?" or "How you doing," uh, the person will say "Fine,"
Yeah.
or "Doing okay," or some kind of just flippant comment like that. In the Czech Republic, if you ask a Czech person "How are you?" they will tell you. Do not ask the Czech person that unless you have time to talk, even a perfect stranger. I made that mistake a few times when I first got there, and I had these long conversations I didn't always have time to have, because they will tell you. And
Yeah.
if they're having a tough day, if they feel depressed, if they have struggles in their life, whatever it is, they will say that because you ask, "How are you?" They're going to be honest about it. And I grew to love that. It was different at first, but I really grew to love the idea that we could just say how we're doing, and that was a good thing. And I wish we would do that in America. That if I could just magic wand something away, is this hesitation to talk about how we are and how we're doing, uh, and the struggles that we might be having. I don't mean you have to share your whole life story with everyone, but we'll share if we're having a physical ailment with perfect strangers sometimes, and standing in line at the grocery store, you might hear somebody talk about, yeah, I'm kind of dreading the surgery I got to have next week, or I got to take my car into the garage because it's been making this weird noise. People will talk about stuff in their life, but they won't talk about depression and anxiety and family struggles. And we all have to pretend like our families are perfect, even though most of them are very far away from that. None of them are perfect, and some of them are toxic, and some are abusive. But we go on Facebook and all post things as if our family is, Hallmark. We need to talk about things, and if we're going to say how are you, we need to be able to say how we are.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I really think if more people were honest on social media, that it wouldn't be so daunting to kind of go on and see people's perfect lives on things like Instagram, because they're not, they're absolutely not perfect. And I honestly think a lot of the video platforms are helping with that a little bit, because people will post less than perfect moments to things like TikTok. And it now Instagram is also kind of getting to be that way, although Instagram is still kind of that curated video feed instead of just people sort of video blogging their lives. But yeah, you can't take things at face value on anything that people choose to post, because they are choosing to post. And if you're going to choose
Exactly.
something to post, you're generally not going to choose the darker side of things that everyone
Yeah.
has. Everyone has bad days, and you're not going to post about that usually.
Well, I've lived a life where people are more honest with me than most because I'm a therapist,
Yeah.
I'm a minister. I have those jobs where people come and they're honest with me because they know I'm going to keep it confidential. But I can tell you from talking to a lot of people over the years, both as a counselor and as a minister, as a coach, and a lot of different aspects in different places of the world. everybody's struggling.
Yeah.
If you think your family is the only one that's crazy, you're wrong. If you think that you're the only one having relationship problems, you're wrong. If you think you're the only one that just can't seem to get it together, you are wrong. Everybody is struggling. And it's okay. It's a process. And that's what I always say with these 5 components of love. You don't have to be perfect at it. No one is. It's a process. It's a practice. Practice the 5 components of love. Your relationships will continue to improve, and you can build those healthy relationships that you want.
Yeah. Well, we have reached kind of the end of the official questions. So if anyone who is here has any questions, feel free to pop those into the chat. And Mark, I will just open it up for you to talk about anything we didn't get to, or, you want to talk about your book one more time. And I'll also post your website while you're chatting. I'll post your website for everyone one more time so they can click through and get that ebook and pre-order whenever pre-order is available. But yeah, I'll just give you the mic for a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Go to markahicks.com. You'll find all the information about my book when it's coming out, when the pre-orders are available. You can get the free ebook. There's a contact form on there. I'm available for speaking engagements, for workshops, for coaching, or if you just want to say hi. I'd love to hear from folks, and that's perfectly fine as well. But feel free to contact me, particularly if you have speaking opportunities or like I said, workshops or coaching that you're interested in. I would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you taking the time and joining us here today. This was a beautiful conversation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That was such a great conversation with Dr. Mark Hicks. Relationships, whether romantic, friendships, family, or even coworkers, can be hard. They take effort, self-awareness, and sometimes a reality check about our own patterns. Mark's breakdown of the 5 key components of love really hit home. Grief, emotion, practicality, acceptance, and passion. Those aren't just things that apply to marriage or dating. They shape all of our relationships. And I think the biggest takeaway is that love isn't just about finding the right people, it's about being the right person. And that means healing, learning, and growing so we don't bring old wounds into new connections. And let's be honest, most of us weren't taught how to do that. If you grew up around unhealthy relationships, or if you've been through toxic situations, this stuff doesn't always just come naturally. But the good news is that you can learn it. You can unlearn bad habits, you can set boundaries, and you can build connections that actually make you feel supported instead of drained. It just takes practice. What part of this episode stood out to you the most? Are there relationships in your life that could use better communication, more patience, or maybe some boundaries? I want to hear your thoughts. Find me as MommaFoxFire on most socials, and let's keep this conversation going. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps so much, not just in getting the podcast out to more people, but in making sure the conversations we have here are the ones you actually want to hear. Plus, when you leave a review, it gives me a chance to shout you out in a future episode. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care of yourself, take care of your relationships, and remember, you don't have to figure it all out alone. I'll catch you next time.